All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ole Miss After Dark. Me and Hitch are back with y'all after probably about a 2-3 week break, whatever it was. Finally getting lined up where we can record again, and thought this was as good a time as any with Ole Miss basketball kind of in the thick of a tournament race right now. And let's go ahead and get started right there. I want to start with Chris Beard, Hitch. It seems like his vision for this program is kind of coming to fruition a little bit. You can kind of see what he's trying to do, because right now he seems to be coaching circles around everybody, and we just keep coming up short against these elite teams when you look at what happened in Oxford against Auburn this past Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, the one thing that I keep thinking about after watching that game yesterday is that how we got beat, but I don't think we necessarily played that. I think we played really well. But man, Auburn shot 50% from the 3-point line. If Auburn doesn't shoot 50% from the free throw line, it's a completely different game. So yeah, I think you're right about that. He's right there. And we were talking before we hit record there, and it was like, he's coaching circles around people is what you said. It's just like he doesn't have any dudes. But I think he has a couple of dudes that show up every once in a while, right? Like, he doesn't have a dude that you can go to and get a bucket. But I mean, like, Padula was a dude yesterday. Dia has been a dude a couple of times. It's one of those things where I don't know if being too balanced is a bad thing in our situation, right? They kept saying that we have 7,000 point scorers on the squad, which is a great thing. But do we try to distribute the ball too much when we need a basket? Who is the guy that we're going to go to? I don't know. That question could be answered with Brakefield, Dia, Padula, Juju. Like, that question which is a good thing, but it also could be a bit detrimental when it comes to these big time games like this, when you don't have a guy that, hey, this is the guy who's going to get my bucket this time.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think this Ole Miss team's really lacking is a guy that's going to absolutely take over for you every single game, instead of depending on, is it going to be Padula tonight? Is it going to be Brakefield? Is it going to be Dia? Is this the time Matthew Morrell steps up, which I thought Morrell played a really good game, probably his best game offensively in weeks. He was within himself. He took good shots. He made them when he got the opportunities there. And he's been a stellar defender all year long. He's probably been the best defender on the entire team off the ball all year long. But yeah, I think that's a great point. Yesterday it was Padula. Every time we needed a bucket, we went to him, and by God, he got us a bucket, right? Whether it was driving to the rim or a big 3-point shot. Ole Miss did a really good job of hanging in that game when they had so much going against them, kind of like you talked about. Auburn, every time we would go on that run, we would get within 1, 2, 3 points, keep trimming that lead, and then you'd look up and boom, three.
Yeah.
And, when we get that close, we'd get to the free throw line, and we weren't able to make our free throws, particularly in the first half, 4 for 10 there in the first half. The free throw line really killed us. Did pretty good in the second half, 20 for 25. You can't complain a whole lot about that. They stepped up and made the free throws when they needed to there in the second half. But it still seemed in the second half like every time we went to the line with a chance to tie or get over that hump to take the lead, we weren't able to make those particular free throws.
Yep.
Like, out of the 5 free throws we missed, those were the ones we ended up missing, right? It was the big ones that could have gotten us over the hump there. But just kind of the broad view here of this program, you can see this team taking on the identity of Chris Beard. Every time you step on the court with Ole Miss, they are going to defend the hell out of you, right? And you kind of look at this Auburn game, and you probably think, oh, well, the defense let us down here. Auburn had 92 points. But to your point, when you shoot 50% from the 3-point line, you're going to have those big numbers like that. I still thought we played really well, especially early in the first half. Like, I was getting Alabama vibes there for the first, 5-10 minutes of the first half. We were all over them, creating turnovers, which is what this Ole Miss team is really, really good at doing. There were just times when they would look up and there's, 3 seconds left on the shot clock, they're scrambling, they fire up a three, it ends up going in, and that puts us behind the 8 ball again. But again, just from the broader view, this Chris Beard team yeah, I know it happened like 4 or 5 times yesterday against Auburn, but it seems like this team is really taking on the identity of their coach, though. They're really playing hard defensively. Kind of like you said, we just got to find that one guy that we can go to every single time. Because when we went on that stretch to start out 4-0 in conference play, you'd look up, and we talked about it before, you would have 5 guys in double figures, right? Dia leading with 19, Padula with 17, a couple guys with, 11, 12, 13. It was a really spread out attack. But I think in basketball in particular, is probably more importantly than any other sport, you've got to have that one guy that when you say, by God, I've got to have a bucket, I'm putting it in his hands, and he's going and getting it for me.
Yeah. And I mean, yesterday in that game, it looked like a 3-headed monster, with Brakefield, Dia, and Padula all, coming up big there in the first half. But Dia disappeared in the second half. It felt like a little bit. And, man, I wish that he were the guy, because I think he's so skilled with his back to the basket, facing up, even he'll take like, not necessarily fadeaways, but he'll take like fall away jumpers from like the elbow. Man, it looks good. It looks like he has a lot of confidence shooting that shot. Just like Dre Davis has a lot of confidence. It looks like coming through the lane and falling away from about, 6 feet. A lot of confidence in that shot. It takes a lot. But I wish Dia would be that guy. I wish he would be that first guy that we looked at on offense. But I mean, when you got guys like Padula shooting, I mean, he was putting in work yesterday. I mean, that kid, that's really the first time that I've seen him just attack the basket like that, just and taking good shots. There was one shot that he was wide open, and I think if he would have hit that shot, he would hit that three, that would have put us up. And it may have been a different game, but no shade to him on that gameplay. But you were talking about the steals and stuff. I mean, we turned Auburn over 12 times yesterday. Auburn doesn't turn the ball over a lot. We had 9 steals, right? So, you're looking at only 3 turnovers that weren't forced really by us. That's a pretty good ratio when it comes to steals to turnovers. But yeah, that was a tough one yesterday. It was so much fun to watch because it really felt like we were in the game the entire time. And Chris, and like you said, just to kind of circle back to where Chris Beard has us as a program now. I think a couple of years ago, right, if we had played that well in the first half and been that close against the number 1 team in the country, we would have been like, oh, thank God we're in this position. Like, oh, we would have been so thankful. But I think that we came out of the locker room yesterday in the second half not thinking, wow, we're so thankful to be this close. I think we came out of the locker room thinking we're fixing to win this game. We're going to beat the number 1 team in the country because we're better than them. And that's just a testament of kind of, the Chris Beard mentality.
Yeah. The mindset and mentality that he's instilled in these players. And also, I was pretty impressed with Bruce Pearl after the game. I'm sure people have seen the clip floating around about him talking about Chris Beard and this Ole Miss program and just where he has them at right now, just in year 2. Bruce Pearl's not one to mince words. He's not one to come out and just say something just because it's the classy thing to say or whatever. I mean, if he's got something on his mind, he's going to tell you. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. And he spoke very highly, obviously, of Chris and this Ole Miss program. He knows they're on the rise, and he knows they're coming, and he knows we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. As long as Chris Beard is the coach here in Oxford, we got to do whatever we can to keep him. Looking further into what happened yesterday against Auburn, I mentioned Matthew Morrell. Thought he played a really good game. He goes 4 for 6, shooting on the game, 2 for 4 from downtown, 7 for 9 from the free throw line. Chipped in 4 rebounds and an assist. Didn't turn the ball over, had a steal. I thought he played really, really well. Ended up with 17 points on the game, trailing only Padula, who went for 29 with 3 steals, like we talked about. And that's a pretty good guard combo defensively. When you look at Padula and Morrell, Padula's really stepped his game up defensively as well off the ball. I think those guys can guard anybody. Dia, 3 for 9 for the game. One thing I did like about Dia, so I obviously talked to my dad a good bit about anything Ole Miss sports, right? And obviously watch a lot of games together. And early on in that game, you saw Dia go to the rim. He had that one pull up jumper at the free throw line, and I thought, okay, he's kind of getting back to where, because against Alabama, he was so physical. He was going to the rim, 19 rebounds and 23 points or whatever it was. And a lot of it was right there in the paint. But after he hit that first shot from the free throw line, he started going to the rim. He was attacking the rim. He was trying to be physical. That's what we need out of D. I saw that a lot in the first half, not so much in the second half, and I think it kind of showed, and that's kind of why he tailed off a little bit, still ended up with 9 points, but only 4 rebounds. He did have 3 blocks, though, so he was still active at the rim defensively, and we've got to have a guy like that. They can try to protect the rim a little bit there. Jamin goes 5 for 10, 1 for 1 from downtown, so hit his only 3. Did work on the offensive boards. That's something we don't really have on this team a whole lot. 3 of his 5 rebounds were on the offensive board. One thing Jamin's got to get better at, which you take the good with the bad, he had 4 turnovers, and this is a team that can't afford to turn the ball over. But, again, when he has 12 points, 5 rebounds, and all of the other things that he was kind of a point forward type situation there with Jamin, you kind of take that. But that is one thing he needs to cut down if his game's going to go to the next level.
Well, we only had 9, right, as a team. So, So that's half of them right there.
Yeah.
But the only thing when I'm looking at the box score here, you take a look down there at the bottom, we got to get that guy more minutes, right? Like if we're going to win 8, we got to get Klafke some more minutes. Not only more minutes, more shots, brother. Let's get some shots up. Over the past couple of games, and look, Eduardo, I am not telling you how to play your game, brother. But over the past few, I've seen you, catch the ball and have a shot and pass it up. Let's go ahead and get those shots up, all right?
We're riding. Let's let it fly. Let's let it fly.
Let that thing fly.
Yeah. Another guy I wanted to point out because it felt kind of like a bounce back game from him. It was nice to see. Devin Barnes, I thought, played really well last night. Plays 20 minutes, only goes 1 for 3, shooting the ball. But again, what he does, he defends, and he's a good rebounder at the guard position. Ends up with 5 rebounds there, a block, a steal. So, if he's going to play 20 minutes, that's what you want out of him. And anything you get out of him offensively is obviously a bonus. But when you're able to get Padula off the court for a breather, get Morrell off the court for a breather, something like that, and put him in the game, I think that's where his value is, and I think that showed a good bit against Auburn. So shout out to Davin Barnes, who obviously caught a lot of hell in the A&M game for missing those free throws, but made them against Texas in the game we absolutely had to have, right?
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. Is we didn't record after that game, but he made that one against Texas that was huge, and then it says a lot that yesterday on that flagrant foul that's who we went. I mean,
he went to the line.
Yeah. I mean, so like it was. It says a lot that. Now I don't know if Chris Pierce sent him to the line to say you're still our best free throw shooter and we want you to shoot these free throws, or if he was saying, hey, I still have confidence in you, whichever one it was, it worked out. And it was nice to see him come back and make those 2 free throws. And, with all the confidence in the world, right? He didn't look shook or anything like that. But yeah, when you look and you see as a guard, he has 5 rebounds, right? On a team like this, where we need all the rebounds we can get, that's big. That's big minutes.
Yep, absolutely. So good
and
to see from him.
Yesterday too. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Because I look at Mikael Brown-Jones played 5 minutes, or whatever, but we played so small. I don't know why, but man, it seemed like in the second half, Padula was getting matched up against Broom every time down the court, and I was like, we got to do something because Padula can't guard him.
The reason you kept seeing Padula on Broom is because we keep switching everything, and then you'd look up and Juju Murray would be on him. He was on Broom, I guarantee you, 25 to 30 times yesterday. And every time he was, I'd look up at my dad and I'd go, we need to do something about that. Got to do something about that.
We
That ain't
played
gonna work.
so small. The whole game we played really small. But
And that's where you saw a lot of the 3-point shots come to, because we would always be coming down to double broom because we would have a guard. We would be Padula, Murray, whoever it may be, one-on-one, basically down there on the block or at least at the elbow. And that's such a mismatch. You'd have to send another guy. And look, Broom's an incredible player. I did learn yesterday he is now my dad's most hated player of all time. Like, just sitting there watching that game play out, he really hates him some Janai Broom. But look, he's a really, really good player, and he was able to find the open guy more times than not whenever that double team would come. So good for him. But, he is a little bit of a drama queen, though.
Yeah, I'll say this about Janai Broom. Yesterday, maybe it's the second time I watched him play, and we can go ahead and put National Player of the Year to rest, right? Like, Cooper Flagg is head and shoulders better than Janai. Like, they kept saying yesterday, he's like, Janai Broom, best player. I was just like, we can go ahead and squash that, because we can go ahead and count them votes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's an 18-year-old up at Duke that has that one wrapped up already. So, but yeah, kind of wrapping up this Auburn talk, though. It was an opportunity, one that was missed by Ole Miss, but they end up falling 92-82. That drops Ole Miss to 16-6 overall, 5-4 in the SEC, and that's why that game against Texas this past Wednesday was so important, because obviously Ole Miss has dropped, 3 in a row going into that Texas game, and you had Auburn looming on Saturday, which you're never going to, just go out and count that as a win. Know that more than likely you're not going to get that win, as Auburn's only lost one game all year, and that game being to Duke, right? So you needed that Texas game. Good for Ole Miss, battling through that one, getting that win. But then kind of looking ahead, Ole Miss has a real opportunity here, because you welcome Kentucky into Oxford on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, go on the road to LSU, on the road to South Carolina, teams that have combined to win one SEC game all year long. And then you welcome Mississippi State into Oxford, and, you gave State all they could handle down in Charlottesville, and State's a team that's kind of reeling right now as well. But, you look at it, Ole Miss is 5-4, and here over the next 2 weeks, you have 4 games that if you're not favored in, you're at least a coin flip game, right? If you told me Ole Miss is favored against Kentucky on Tuesday, I totally buy it, right? Because they're not going to defend anybody, and we're going to get on it. See, that's what I'm thinking. Somewhere, probably 1 to 1.5 point favorite either way, right? Either Kentucky to Ole Miss. Basically going to be a pick 'em, though. But then after that, Ole Miss will be favored in Baton Rouge. We'll be favored in South Carolina, and we'll be favored against Mississippi State and Oxford as well. So Ole Miss sitting at 5-4. The number everybody keeps throwing out is 8. Get the 8 conference wins, and you're going to be in the tournament. Ole Miss has a chance to lock that up coming up here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, really looking at the schedule, and 2, that Texas game was really important, because it would have been super easy to lay down after that Texas A&M game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I still think about that game as the one that got away, right? I mean, but then you come out and play a very good Missouri team, who I'm very high on. Like, I think Missouri is one of the better teams in the country after watching them play a couple of times. And, we could have gone to Columbia and laid down. We didn't, right? We played. We come out, we beat Texas. We could have laid down yesterday against the number 1 team. We did. So this says a lot about this team. I think you're right, man. What worries me is, not showing up at LSU and not showing up at South Carolina. That's a little worrisome. But outside of that, right, Vanderbilt has shown to be, pretty good this year, and that's always a tough place to play, whether they're good or not, because that gym is just so strange. But you still got Auburn again, and you got Tennessee, right, and Florida. So
and you go to Florida.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule does set up in a way that allows us to not only get into the tournament, right, with those 8 wins, but I mean, they're at the end of the year. If you could take one from Auburn or Tennessee or Florida, right? Like you're looking at boosting your seeding there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why these next couple of weeks are so important. Like I said, you get Kentucky at home, go to Baton Rouge, to Columbia, Mississippi State at home. Like you said, you go to Vanderbilt, Nashville. That's always a tough place to play. Vanderbilt's played pretty good so far this year, even though they just got thumped on the road on Saturday against Oklahoma. But then you have this close going to Auburn. You get Oklahoma at home. And look, Oklahoma is a team that was very good in the non-con, started out like 0-3 or 0-4, whatever it was in the SEC. They're playing pretty well right now, though. They are 3-5, I believe, now in the SEC. So they're starting to string some wins together, get some confidence. That's not going to be an easy game in Oxford. And then you get Tennessee and Oxford. Then you go to Gainesville. That's why these next couple of weeks are so important to try to get to that 8-9 win mark in the SEC to lock up a tournament berth. Because if you're dependent on those last 4 games, you're really going to have to be playing your best basketball if you plan on taking one of those.
Right. You don't want to go into March the 1st, right, needing to win 2 out of the next 3 games because it's Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Florida, right? Like don't be Ole Miss. Don't put yourself in that position, right? Like go ahead and take care of it right now. Don't beat Kentucky, beat Florida, right? Football. I'm going back to football. Sorry, I'm going back to football. Take care of the business that you need to take care of, and that way you take it out of the hands of the committee, right? You just take care of business on the court, and it's not even a big deal. But I'm with you. These next 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think these next 5 games may be bigger than the final 4 games that we have.
Yes,
as
absolutely.
far as needing to win those.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. That's why I say over these next 2.5 weeks, that's when you need to get to that 8 to 9 number to lock up your spot, and then you're playing with house money against some really, really good teams, potentially.
Wouldn't that be a great feeling?
Best teams in the SEC.
Wouldn't that be a great feeling to like be in the tournament at February the 15th, right? We're in the tournament.
It would.
And now we're playing these teams and trying to get to a 4 seed, right? Or a 3 seed instead of a 7 seed. Like, man, I don't know if I've ever felt that. It's always been, hey, we got to win these games to get a 10 seed.
Or go to Nashville and win 1 or 2 there, to get off the bubble, right?
Which is fun. But it's not fun every year.
Yeah, but it's kind of the equivalent to baseball when you've got a spot locked up and you're like, all right, well, if you can get 2 out of 3 here or 2 out of 3 there, then you're a host team. Or if you're already a host trying to get into that national seed conversation, right? It's the same thing there, and it's something that Ole Miss basketball's never in, right? You had to go win the SEC tournament under Andy Kennedy to get in that year to face Wisconsin. So it'd be nice to go ahead and lock it up and make this final month of the SEC basketball season pretty sweat-free and really enjoyable. I wanted to go back and look at some of the results from Saturday because some of them were pretty mind-blowing that I didn't expect. Right off the top, the first 2 games of the day, Tennessee, down a couple starters, just absolutely dismantles Florida and Knoxville 64-44. And then your Missouri Tigers, Hitch, they travel down to Starkville and just put belt to ass to the Mississippi State Bulldogs, 88-61.
I watched some of that. I watched some of that Tennessee-Florida game, before our game. Look, Florida scored 44 points. One of the better offenses in the country. And I don't know that it was all Tennessee on defense, right? Florida did not shoot the ball well from 3. I think they were like 4 for 27 or 4 for 28. So, they didn't shoot all that great.
At one point, I know they were 2 for 20.
But Tennessee, down a couple of players, really showed some stuff. And, Missouri has got some guys that the Grill kid is one of maybe the best shooter I've seen since JJ Redick. He's unbelievable. And then they've got Mark Murphy, transfer from Duke. Man, he can score at all 3 levels of the floor. They've got a guy down in there that can offensive rebound and go back up. Josiah Gray. Missouri, is a team that nobody's talking about right now, but Missouri might be a Final Four team. No kidding.
Yeah, they
You heard
absolutely
it
have the
here.
potential to make a run. Come March, they absolutely have the potential to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. They're a really good team. Obviously, Auburn beats Ole Miss 92-82. I've just been sitting here looking, and it just dawned on me that every single SEC game, except for one yesterday, was a double-digit win. Every one of
Yeah, I'm
them but
looking at
one.
that. Yeah.
Vanderbilt goes to Norman, gets blown out 97-67. Alabama dismantles Georgia 90-69 in Tuscaloosa. Texas really starting to turn things around. They've started off 0-3 in the league. They're now 4-5 after traveling to Baton Rouge and coming out of there with an 89-58 thrashing of the LSU Tigers. And then your only single-digit game, which has kind of been kind of a thing for South Carolina. They've played teams so close all year long. Even against Auburn, they had Auburn against the ropes there, and that ended up being a one-possession game really late, within the final 30 seconds of that game. But they're not able to hang on against Texas A&M. They lose 76-72 to drop to 0-9 in the conference. And then Coach Cal goes on the road and gets his revenge in Lexington as the Razorbacks take down the Wildcats 89-79.
I didn't even look at I didn't even see this. I meant to watch some of it actually, but me get lost out in that garage sometimes. Stuff happens. But I just saw the score and I was like, oh, no kidding. Arkansas went to Rupp and beat Kentucky by then. Man, that's crazy. That South Carolina score is also terrifying as well, when you look at it.
Well, I'm telling you, man, South Carolina has they've played basically everybody close. They just haven't been able to finish it off and get a win. That's why there's no gimmies in this league, man. When you go to Columbia, you better pack your lunch because you're in for a fight when you walk through the doors and get down there on the court. I want to look at the games for next week before we get out of here, Hitch, to see if anything sticks out to you on Tuesday. The Vanderbilt Commodores are traveling to Gainesville to play Florida. That seems to be a game that Vanderbilt needs at least a little bit of a bounce back, but I got a feeling they are going to be walking into a bit of a hornet's nest. I mean, there's going to be a pissed off vibe from the Florida Gators that night.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know that Vanderbilt is as good defensively as Tennessee is, right? Or will give Florida the trouble on the glass that Tennessee did, because Florida's one of the better offensive rebounding teams. I think probably Florida, takes care of Vanderbilt there at home.
Yeah, and then we talked about 6 o'clock. Ole Miss is hosting Kentucky, and then your last game for the night there. This kind of feels like a trap spot here for Auburn. They've got an Oklahoma team, like I said, it's playing pretty good right now. Oklahoma probably with a little bit of a confidence boost with the way they've been playing, especially blowing out Vanderbilt by 30 on Saturday. They travel into Auburn, and they've got one of the ultimate free shots at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you've got Janai Broome, who yesterday he got hurt 4 times, so he may not be at 100%. Bruce Pearl better have that Auburn team ready, or Oklahoma's coming off of a confidence booster there against Vanderbilt, and could get beat.
Yeah, absolutely. This may be the game of the week here, Hitch. I know you're going to be tuned into it. On Wednesday at 6 o'clock, your Missouri Tigers are traveling to Knoxville to take on Tennessee. That'll be a hell of a game.
That will be a very good game. We'll see how that'll be a good barometer, right? Because Missouri is a very good offensive team like Florida was, and so we will see how well they stand up to that Tennessee pressure at home or on the road.
Yeah, and then at 8 o'clock following that one, Georgia welcomes LSU into Athens. This is a game that Mike White and the Bulldogs really need. They're sitting 15-7, 3-6 in the SEC. They can't afford to drop a game here to the 1-7 LSU Tigers. So that's one Georgia desperately needs to win.
Yeah, Georgia's an interesting team because they started out, I think, a little under the radar. They got into the rankings, played really well. They have a freshman, an exciting freshman. He's good. Watched him play a couple of times. Asa Newell.
Yeah, Asa Newell. Yeah, man, he's good.
And not that he doesn't have players around him, but I don't know that he has the caliber of players around him that other teams in the SEC do. So you may see Georgia begin to fall down in there with the LSUs and the South Carolinas of the SEC this year. But again, with a player like that, they can pop up and beat anybody, right? Like Asa Newell can come out one night, go 30-15 and beat Auburn if that's how the cards play.
Yeah. And then the last midweek game, Arkansas coming off their big win. They go back on the road again, traveling to Austin to play again a Texas team that's playing pretty well. Yeah, 15-7, 4-5 in the league. They've kind of turned it around. That's going to be one of those games, I think, when you look back on this Ole Miss season, you look at that Texas game, and not only is it a potential turning point in the season for us getting that win, but it's also going to end up looking like a pretty good win by the time it's all said and done. With the way Texas is playing, wouldn't be surprised if that ends up jumping up to a quad one win by the time the season's done with.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, watching Texas, right? I mean, Trey Johnson, you knew who he was coming into the game, right? Even if you hadn't seen him play, you've heard of the freshman. And I mean, he still put up 22 points, right? It didn't seem like he had that great of a game against us, but I was impressed with the big guy they've got, Kaluma. The way that he was making a lot of plays. He's that probably maybe number 2 guy behind Trey Johnson that could really propel Texas to, like you said, some big wins, which great for Ole Miss because the bigger the wins for Texas, the higher they climb into those net rankings. And I think that's what everybody's goal is, to get a quad one win. So that'd be great.
Yeah. And speaking of net, before we get out of here, the updated nets came out earlier today on Sunday. Ole Miss only dropped 1 spot after losing that game to Auburn. We now sit at number 23, so we're still a quad one opportunity, whether we're home or away for any opponent in the SEC. We're still in a really good spot, obviously.
Here's a question. You may not know this. What do you know what we were when we were 3-0 in the SEC? Like before we took the loss, were we in the teens?
You talking about net?
Yeah.
We
3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think we climbed up as high as like 18 or 19, somewhere in there.
Just a testament of this league, right?
Yeah.
My whole point in asking that was I knew that we weren't ever in the top 10, right? But in the past 3 weeks, we were at 17 or 18. We've lost 4 games, right? And we've dropped 5 spots. That's wild.
Well, look, when we were undefeated in the SEC and we went down to Starkville, we lost that game in overtime and we jumped like 1 or 2 spots in the net. Like we actually climbed with that one, right? Because of how well we played and how close that one was.
Yeah.
So, the net's not going to be a problem for Ole Miss when it comes to getting into the tournament. It's all about winning games. Take care of your business. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And Ole Miss will be a tournament team. We will be playing in March. And if I had to guess, as long as Chris Beard is the coach, this is going to be the new normal for Ole Miss fans. Just probably playing for higher seedings as the years go on. Had a bunch of big recruits at the game on Saturday against Auburn. I imagine they probably came
big
away
crowd.
Pretty impressed, right? And the crowd was incredible as well. So shout out to
you can't tell it on TV. You can't tell it on TV, but like they kept talking about how loud it was in there. So I'm assuming it was pretty loud.
Yeah. I saw a lot of people talking about that as well. So, all right, Hitch, we'll go ahead and get out of here. We will be back with y'all maybe sometime next week. Me and Hitch been talking. We're going to start gearing up for baseball. Obviously, that starts on February the 14th, so we're less than 2 weeks away there. Yeah, I see that Elko jersey back there.
I went the wrong way.
I spotted that before we ever hit record, man. It's the first thing I saw back there. So, we'll start gearing up for baseball as well. Keep doing shows on basketball. And appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will talk to y'all later. Hitch, I appreciate it, bud.
Hotty toddy.